Hey guys, or peoples. I really wanted to today talk about my coming out and really my gender and all that stuff. And while I'm on topic, also about maybe my coming to Christ. It's a testimony I don't really get to talk about. So lately, what's been happening is a lot of the time on Facebook and places like that. I post a lot. I'm not an activist. I don't like being labeled as an activist because I don't feel I do nearly enough in the community to be labeled as an activist. But I definitely am very active in finding things out and representing like people's rights, and like I'm a very big advocate for that. So on my Facebook, I have a bunch of stuff for people of color and women's rights, feminism, and of course LGBTQ. That being said, I am not everything in the LGBTQ spectrum. I cannot possibly be, Hispanic, African American, gay, lesbian, trans, bi, heterosexual. I can't not be everything in the community at the same time. There is intersectionality, but I cannot be everything. I'm a lot, but not everything. And so people have been asking me, what I really am and why I'm posting all this stuff on Facebook if it doesn't, necessarily, refer to myself. The answer to that is because I think a lot of people don't have the rights that they should, and I don't think that's fair, and I really want to be able to, fight for those rights for a lot of people, because that's kind of messed up that we don't have a lot of equality that other people have. And I know what it's not like to not have equality, and I have a lot of privilege. I'm Hispanic, but I look white, and I have a lot of privilege that other people don't have. I have a wonderful home that a lot of people don't have, and I think it's messed up that people don't even have what I have, and, I'm not even treated equally as other people. I think that's really messed up. But to be clear, I am pansexual, and I am gender fluid. Non-binary is an umbrella term, and I fall under that. It means that I don't necessarily fit into the girl or boy category. I'm somewhere else in the gender spectrum, and I'm gender fluid, which means I kind of fluctuate. And yeah, I'm trans. And no, I did not realize, as my father pointed out, that I was trans, when I was 3. I never realized that. You're absolutely right. I never realized that when I was like 2 years old, that, oh my gosh, I'm trans. That's not how that worked. He had pointed out that I had posted some stuff like, oh, you knew when you were 5, you knew when you were 6, you knew when you were 18, you knew when you were 33, and I did not know when I was 2 or 5 or 6 or 10. That's not how that works. And, some people don't realize that they're trans or acknowledge it until, like, Caitlyn Jenner, she waited like 50 years to come out to people. Some people don't really realize that maybe I do fall under this category, or maybe it's time to admit that I do, or, just everybody comes out at their own pace, and I really realized this in college. And when I did realize it, my whole life just seemed to kind of click and make sense. It's really hard. It's really hard. It's really hard. And at first, I didn't know what any of these terms were, obviously. And when I got into high school, I started I joined not the Q&A, it's not Queers and Allies. It's another one. It's not Queers and Allies. It's another one of those groups. And everyone was like, "Why are you in this group if you're not gay?" And I was like, what do you mean? Like, everyone deserves rights. Like, I want to know more about these people and why they're not treated the right way. And I just had a really big heart for that, and I just didn't know why. And I kind of knew that I wasn't straight, but I really wasn't going to tell anybody, because I knew I wasn't necessarily bi or gay. I knew I wasn't gay because I liked guys, and I knew I wasn't straight because I still had an inkling towards women, but I didn't really know what was going on, and I didn't really feel like labeling myself, so I just told everybody, yeah, I'm straight. And I knew I wasn't gay. And then I found out about like trans people, and I had no idea about trans people, but to me that made sense. I was like, oh wow, that must be so hard, and oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I was really like not so interested, but I thought it was interesting, and I thought the same thing, like these people deserve to have rights and be listened to and things like that. And then I heard, gender fluid and this stuff. I didn't even hear non-binary. I heard gender fluid, and I was like, what is that? And at first I was really curious, and then it really was like the stereotypical Tumblr side of things, where people are just kind of like, oh, well, one day you're this, and so everyone has to call you a he, and then the next day you're a she, and people have to guess if you're a she, and they have to call you a she. And I was like, what type of stupidity are you people talking about? I was like, I'm not even listening to this. That sounds so stupid. Like, I didn't get it at all. I was like, wow. And then I went to college, and I kind of learned more about it. I really didn't even think about gender fluid. Like, occasionally I'd hear the term and I'd think about it, but not really. And then I went to college, and I met people who were gender fluid, and I really got educated in the Queers and Allies group at my college, and I became more involved, and I still didn't even realize that this was me. I thought, oh wow, that's interesting. At this point, I've already realized that I'm pansexual. I had realized the term in high school, and I was like, this makes sense. Pansexual just means I'm attracted to you based off of you, not on your genitals. I'm more of a person who's attracted to you on your personality, personally. So I just realized I'm gender fluid. I don't really care if you're a trans man or, what you got going down there, if you're a woman or you're a man or whatever's going on. I don't particularly care. That's your business and good for you. But in college, I met a few people who were just non-binary, and I thought, oh, well, that makes more sense now what you're telling me, but it still didn't really click. And then I went back home for like a break, and I went, why is my life so difficult? Like, why am I picking out clothes so difficult? Like, why am I making it harder for myself? And I was really down on myself, and I said, forget it, I'm not going to get dressed, I'm going to stay in pajamas all day. And I went to go brush my hair, and I'm brushing my hair, and I go, watch me be gender fluid. And I went, oh my gosh, like, it literally just clicked. All the gears were like meshing together, and like the key turned, and I was like, oh my god, like this moment of revelation. And I immediately went and I prayed, and I said, thank you God so much. And I said, okay, wait, I need to figure out more about this. So I went and I looked stuff up online, and I went to my friends who were, non-binary, and said, hey, I think maybe this is what I am, and can you tell me more about it? And I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with me, maybe it's in my head. Like, I still sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, am I just crazy? And I was just like, oh my gosh, I had all these doubts, and I have to be absolutely sure before I start telling people this stuff, because they're gonna think it's nonsense. I had to be 100% positive. And I think I must have done so much research in those first few days, not even that first week. So much research, it was enough to probably make somebody sick. I was just like so into it, like, I need to find out if this is, like, applies to me. And that was really when it made sense. And I came out shortly after that, and really I've been out for about a year now. And I didn't come out to my mom right away. She actually noticed me posting stuff on Facebook, and she kind of asked me about it. And that's how she found out. I kind of told her then and there, and then I tried to tell my dad, and that didn't go over so well. But he didn't really believe me, and that was really hard, to just be so open and vulnerable with somebody. I was shaking, and he was kind of just like dismissing me, like, you better stop talking, you're crazy. And my grandmother, the same thing, it's just a phase, you'll get over it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really happening to me, like, this is terrible. They didn't even acknowledge me. My fear was that they were going to be angry. My mother didn't really get it. She still has a hard time dealing with it, and she's a great mother. I have, my parents aren't bad parents, honestly. I'm not going to talk bad about my parents. It's just really hard, to realize that your kid is trans, that you're losing your daughter, but you still have a child, and it's just a hard transition for everybody. And I'm transitioning the same way. If you don't like something about your body, you feel like maybe you're too heavy, or maybe you don't like your nose, the same way that you would work out and get thin or go get plastic surgery is the same way where I maybe want hormones, or I want top surgery, or those are just thoughts that I have. The same way you're like, well, maybe I should work out. It's the same to me. It's the same thing. It's bettering yourself. That's my transition, is to be the most real me, the me that I feel most comfortable as. And that to me was a big deal, and I needed to be out. Like, it was, as soon as I found out, like, I needed people to know, and people don't really understand that, and I had a hard time with that too. And again, I really didn't know when I was like little. I found out later on in life. I was like 18, 19 when I really realized this. I'm almost 20 right now. I was, about to turn 19, and now I'm about to turn 20, so I said about a year that I've really come out and have been realizing this. I've realized maybe a little over a year that I was trans, and I realized for a year that I've been out. And the first person I think I really told was kind of my roommate, because she kind of confronted me about being pansexual. I hadn't told her, and she heard me talking to one of my other friends, and he was kind of questioning his gender and his sexuality, and I was kind of telling him terms and telling him about myself, and she kind of overheard me, and she had thought something wasn't really right, so she had asked me about it. And God bless you, Kelly, I love you, she's my best friend. And she was really nice about the whole thing, and she's trying her best to be supportive. The thing about being an ally is that you need to know you're never going to understand what it's like to be that other person, what they're going through, because you're not them, you're not in that situation. But, to try your best to support them. And really that's what I want, is a bunch of allies, to just really support me and just be an ally. Be an ally to me, just be there for me and try to help me, and, that's what everybody wants. And so she was really the first person to find out. And then I emailed my aunt. I figured that she would probably be the most accepting and understanding, and she was kind of my trial run, and I was really shaky, and I called her and I said, look, this is something I need to talk to you about. And then I emailed her an entire list of like just resources that she could look at, and I don't think she really went through that whole list because there was a lot of stuff on there, but she probably skimmed a lot and listened to some of it, and got back to me and was like, it's okay, I understand you, I accept you, and that's alright. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that was the best possible reaction I could have hoped for. She was not only understanding and accepting, but she apologized to the difficulties that I would have to be facing, and she apologized on the behalf of other people for putting me through what I was going to have to go through, coming out, and for having to have made me feel so nervous and shaky and invalid. And I was just like, this is the best outcome I could have possibly hoped for. Oh my gosh. And that just really meant a lot to me. And again, when I was younger, there were things that I guess I kind of had difficulty with, like, why couldn't I hang out with the boys? Or like, how come growing up my mom would get me a dress and I'd be like, oh yeah, it's great. And then the next week I'd be like, no, Mom, don't make me wear that dress. Like, please, I can't even. And just stuff that it shouldn't have been so difficult was super difficult for me. I remember getting screaming matches with my mom, like, I'm not wearing that, don't make me wear it. And my mom's like, you like it, you wore it last week, you're gonna wear it if I tell you to wear it. And I'd be like, no, Mom, I can't wear it, I'm not gonna wear it, I don't like it anymore. And she just couldn't understand, and I couldn't understand, and we were just so frustrated. And now I understand a little bit better, but I still can't even sometimes know what I'm gonna get dressed as. I'm in an in-between day, and I'm like, what clothes is feminine and masculine that I can feel comfortable in? Like, it's still a really hard combination. And at some point I realized I was trying so hard to kind of fit into like a stereotype that I really wasn't being true to myself, and I kind of just had to be like, well, whatever, I'm gonna wear whatever clothes I want, and I'm gonna figure something out that'll make me feel comfortable, and it doesn't matter if I pass. That for a really long time, or what feels like a really long time, I was like, I need to pass. And I still feel the need to pass. I still want to pass as a guy on my guy days, and, a really pretty girl on my girl days, because that's my thing is, I can pass as a woman. People believe I'm a woman, but I want to be like a really pretty woman that everyone's like, oh my gosh, too. And I kind of just realized I make a really handsome woman and kind of a cute guy. I'm not gonna lie. But those are just, realizing what I was being trans and being in the LGBTQ community. And, that's why I post so much stuff about LGBTQ rights. I'm not the only one going through this, and people deserve to know that they're supported and they're not alone. And, being Christian also was really hard for me. I feel like it kind of fits in because, people are always like, well, how can you be trans or queer? And I identify as queer. I like that title a lot better than having to explain to everybody, I'm this and this and this. I just like, well, I'm queer. I'm a queer kid. And, how can you be queer and Christian? And I'm like, well, transitioning, I think, like a lot of people that may be, transitioning is part of the path that God has set for me. And, I think God loves everybody. And if you really don't believe that, it's okay to be queer, if you think that being queer is a sin, then at least know that, God still loves you. God doesn't hate everybody. That's not true. God loves everybody. And if you really think it's a mistake, then, pray for that person and, hope that they find salvation in their own way, but don't be like, well, God hates you and you're going to hell, because honestly, that's not true. At least I don't believe it to be true. And, I was really depressed as a kid. I was bullied in middle school, and I didn't get along with my mom, and my dad was away, incarceration, not good. I really feel bad for my dad sometimes because, he changed so much after that, and he missed out on so much time with his family, and I know it hurt him. I know my dad loves me, and it must have been really difficult for him, and I just feel like my dad always had like this huge heart, and I just feel like he's so much colder now. And I really feel like, stuff happens, life happens to you, and that sucks, sometimes it's really hard, and he's dealing with it in his own way, and I'm still praying for him, and I still get into fights with him, I still get really frustrated, but I only wish him the best. And, with my mom, I get along a lot better with my mom now, but at the time, middle school, everyone has these phases, and middle school was just a really hard time for me. I was literally, really, suicidal depressed. I remember being called down to the counselor's office. I only wrote depressing poetry. I felt like everything my mom said was, attacking me. And maybe she wasn't, if you ask her, she'll be like, no, of course not. And I think, in her mind, she was just trying to, she's frustrated. She worked night shifts. She had to do all this work, and I really wasn't helping at all, And she probably just felt like she was trying to get me to kind of do something, and, she thought the same thing my dad thinks now, like, I'm trying to bring this attention on myself, and I was like, I just felt so attacked, and maybe, that wasn't the case, but at the time, that's what I felt like, And my mom's a great mother. I love my mother. I think my mother's one of the best mothers, in the world, to have had me so young, and, she is loved by, I can't imagine her being hated by anyone, not that people wouldn't, because there's bad people out there, but just because she's so great of a person, like, all of her friends, she has so much, support and family, and she's a great mother, she had me really young, and I think I turned out great. I remember the day of my graduation, she was like, I'm a good mom! People said you wouldn't graduate, and you did, and I'm so proud of you! And I was like, my mom has lost her mind. But thinking about it, it's one of those memories that I really like. And it's, I keep it really close to me. That my mom was so proud of me to graduate. I was like, yeah, I'm not a stereotype. I graduated and I'm Hispanic. I'm loved by my parents. Woo! But just, I was really depressed for all those middle school years. I was being bullied really bad. Really, really bad. I remember texting my boyfriend at the time from my rooftop and being like, I think I should jump, do you think I'd die if I jumped? And he'd be like, get off the roof, what are you doing? And, for a while I kind of held on to him like he was my lifeline, and that wasn't okay to do, he didn't deserve that, you can't put that on somebody else. And finally my grandmother took me to a church, Calvary Chapel. Right now I go to Miami Vineyard, I go to a different church, but I got saved or rededicated at Calvary Chapel. I grew up around Christ and I knew Jesus, but I rededicated my life, at the end of middle school, and life got so much better. I went to church and I said the little prayer under my breath, and I just, my whole family started going to church, and my stepdad, was lighter, and the whole family mood, the atmosphere got happier and brighter, and I was doing better socially in school. I was better at handling things. I didn't feel so dark and trapped anymore. I felt, just a lot lighter. Just so much lighter, and people didn't really know what I was going through. As much as I didn't really talk a lot about that type of stuff, and it felt good to be saved, and I never want anybody to feel in that dark place that I was in, and that's really why I'm such a big advocate for all these rights, because, it's not okay for you to be suicidal or depressed or sad, and it's not okay. I want everybody to be happy all the time and know that God loves them the same way that I know that now. I think everybody should just be happy being themselves, and that's really just what I wanted everyone to know. That's really what I wanted to say, and thank you for listening.